let's just sew whatever. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be making, I am just not graceful at all, Pisces pack from Knotted Threads Co. This bag turned out so cute. This is the minimalist version with a flap, with the bound top, with the back slip pocket. And then on the inside, I did 2 zipper pocket overlays because why not be extremely excessive? It turned out so cute. I do wish I had used Deck of the Light in the body. I used it in the flap, and I just feel like the fleece is a little too floppy, but you gotta think too, once you fill it with product, with items, with a wallet, etc., like it's gonna get stiffer. So it'll work out in the end. But I hope you will subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get into making it. Before I get started on making any part of this bag, I'm gonna go ahead and just get my crossbody strap out of the way. I am using 1-inch wide hardware and a strap cut to 4 inches wide. I'm going to take 1/2 inch double-sided tape, and I'm just going to lay that centered over that middle line that I traced, that I drew. I don't know why I traced it. I'm just pressing it down firmly. Alternatively, you could choose to use 2 1/4-inch strips of double-sided tape. Totally up to you. Peel all that off, and then I like to kind of start in the center and press that down, leaving a very small gap in between your 2 edges of the strap. And I find this helps leave room for your materials to sit nicely so that you have like a more true 1-inch strap. The materials I am using, this is a mid-weight luxe printed vinyl. The file is from My Darling Creates on Etsy, but she also has her own website. And then I had it custom printed on a mid-weight luxe vinyl. So I carry the vinyl in prints that I have designed, but I do not carry this print. I am just making this bag for myself, or maybe to sell at a later date, not sure. So got everything folded, left a little bit of a gap towards the middle. My stitch length is set to a 5, and I'm just going to start at one side, back stitch, and I'm gonna fold it as I sew it. I tend to just like throw it over my shoulder like a continental soldier. I don't know if that's okay to say. And then I just fold it as I'm going. And I am just top stitching at 1/8 of an inch along all 4 sides, but you could add some decorative top stitching as well and go 1/4 of an inch in addition to the 1/8 inch, or even more if you wanted to. And then to make the strap a slightly adjusting crossbody strap, we have a 1-inch slide adjuster and 2 1-inch snap hooks or lobster clasps or whatever you want to call it. And then we can pick which side of the strap we want to be the top. So this little chip and flowers and hearts looks cute, but so does the cake, but I feel like the other one looks a little better. And then you could choose to just rivet all of these parts, or you can sew them into place. I'm going to go ahead and sew up here. I just do a back stitch, sew forward, and then back stitch again. And then I'm going to back stitch up above that. So 2 parallel lines of back stitching. And try not to like perforate your vinyl, just be mindful of all of that. And now we've got the back side face up. We're gonna grab one of our snap hooks and then go up and over the center bar. Make sure there's no weird loops. Everything sits nicely. And then I'll flip it over and attach the other snap hook to this end. And you can use rivets for this part as well. You could add 2 rivets. You could stitch and rivet. So many options. And then I am using a bonded thread, which means I can take my lighter to it to kind of clean up any rough edges. And then that is our strap done. Ready to just set off to the side while we work on everything else. And so there's a lot of different components to this bag, but most importantly, we are adding the back slip pocket and a flap. This is not included in the instructions. I'm kind of going off inspiration from some of the testers. So I'm going to work on pulling out those pieces first. We have our flap interfaced. We'll need to grab our back slip pocket, exterior and lining. We'll need our back exterior top piece and our back panel. I wonder if I should have organized these pieces at all. It's fine. We also have our strap connectors here and different pieces. So this is a zippered pocket. We're adding a zipper pocket to the exterior. Oh no, I think I'm doing 2 overlays for the lining. Fancy. So I have 3 of these pieces that are the same, so I'm guessing that that goes with that. I cut this out a while ago. Did I not cut enough top lining pieces? Because this is our slip pocket. This is our upper linings. Lower linings, back. These are our zipper pocket lining pieces. I'd be really sad if I just didn't cut that piece. Because I was so thorough in my cutting videos. Okay, well. I will cut out another one in a little bit. So, there's that. Okay. So, first thing I'm going to do is work on the slip pocket, and then we're going to jump to the flap, and then we're going to jump to putting everything together. All right. So on our lining here, we're going to create some measurements up against the corner. And just make sure you're following the pattern instructions for that. And we're going to tape and fold. Okay. And then we'll grab the exterior piece and we're going to make a measurement and add some double-sided tape and then put right sides together. So that measurement given in the pattern. Yeah, I totally needed another one of those. Oh boy. And then it has you put just a little piece of tape right above that one. And you might be thinking to yourself like, well, couldn't I just put right sides together and move on with my day? You could, but that is not what we're doing today. Shannon has worked so hard to create these really amazing bulk reduction techniques, and truly, when you pay attention to them, you can learn a lot. That's me telling myself that. So we're going to stitch only on the lining. Do not extend past the lining. We're doing that at the given seam allowance. And then we're going to add some snips into that curve. Making sure you don't cut through your threads. And then we're going to flip this to the back. And kind of press this so that your lining just kind of sits below that top edge. And then I'm just referring back to the instructions. Yeah, we're going to tape that down and then top stitch all the way. And what this is doing is it's creating a clean finished edge with extremely small amounts of bulk. Okay. So 1/8 of an inch. And then if you have any excess lining, you can kind of trim that up to match evenly. So once we have this done, then we need to move on to our flap. So we've got our snaps that we're going to need to add to the lining side. And then we're going to put right sides together. I am using 18mm thin snaps. I can't believe I don't have that other upper piece I'm a little mad at myself, I'm not gonna lie. Although I do think I'm gonna cut it out of the accent fabric. I think it'll look really nice and kind of harmonize the entire bag. All right, so we've got our markings already marked out on the flap. And we're going to just lay our washer centered over that. Mark that out. And I have my lining interfaced with the Geeky Fleece to add a little bit more structure, but not too much. And I have my exterior vinyl interfaced with Decaville Light. And Shannon does say that if you have trouble kind of top stitching the flap, you can add your magnetic snaps after the fact as well. And my preference is to kind of poke those out. I feel like they sit a little bit better, but you can also overlap them and kind of hammer them flat. And then if you'd like to, you can add some like double-sided tape over those to help them stay. All right, so we're gonna put right sides together. My lining fabric shrank a little bit with the heat, but I am not too terribly concerned about it because I can still use that 3/8 inch on my exterior, but that might affect my snap placement. Maybe not though. We'll find out. All right, so I'm following around the outside edge, just going really slow. You can even decrease your stitch length. You just want to like make a stitch turn along the curve. Yeah, I should have centered my lining just a little bit more. But I think I might be able to also readjust my snap placement just a little bit. Okay, so we're gonna take pinking shears along the curve at the top to help reduce the bulk and down across the bottom. But we're gonna leave the really big corner area for our scissors. And if you think you can just use pinking shears around the curve, you absolutely can try. But Shannon has these really intricate methods of like reducing as much of this excess bulk as possible and kind of creating these like monster teeth that help the curve sit nicely. And it is a little bit therapeutic to cut these little holes. And like if you don't want to do it, it's not the end of the world. But this is one of those times where like she doesn't have to go into detail. She doesn't have to go into that much detail and tell us to do these things if it wasn't what she found to be the most effective technique for like the outcome of the bag. And it really, really helps to have super sharp scissors to be able to do this to the bag. But I will also recognize that it takes quite a bit of hand coordination that not everybody has. So I don't think your bag will suffer that much more if you're not able to do this. Like, it would be okay. And then another thing you can do is add like a little second row of stitching if you're worried about, you know, your stitch lines being seen, etc. It's kind of fun how much of a mess this makes too. The sharpest scissors that I have found, like, obviously I've had these on top of my machine for a while, but these are the Kai V5165. These are my ride or dies. But I also have a pair of the 700 series professional tailoring shears that I'm going to be opening up to cut my overlays. Alright, so now that we have that turned, just really carefully pressing along that curve. And you can take like a strong fingernail to help you with that. But then because of that Decaville light, everything should just like sit in a beautiful way. I really love the way the fleece and the Decaville light feel together. I'm just going slow around the edge to really get that to sit nicely. And then we're going to top stitch all the way around at 1/8 of an inch. And again, that same thing with that flap. One stitch, turn, one stitch, turn. And if you wanted to, you could add a second row of stitching. And then you don't have to, but you can. So across the top. Okay. And then I'm gonna snip the center. Just like that. And we'll snip the center of this lower lining piece as well, because this is going to get sewn with the right sides of your lining face up and the wrong side of your flap face down. I'm gonna double check, but I'm pretty sure. The hard part about doing these two together and following the instructions is like you're gonna have to like flip back and forth. Not a big deal. Yeah, lower main lining, upper main lining, just all the way down. Can't. I have to go cut that piece. Okay, this is where I'll be right back. Now you can baste the flap down so nothing moves. I think we'll be okay. Just gonna sew that. The designated seam allowance. And then we'll just clip into the seam allowance and separate that seam so it sits flat along the side. And then your flap is going to go up to the top edge. You'll top stitch the bulk of that seam under. And I'm just opening it up at the side. And I'll backstitch up to help that seam sit nice and flat. Okay, so now we can jump back to attaching our slip pocket. So we're going to line up the lining pieces. Okay, and then we're going to fold our lining out of the way. Okay, so we're going to flip back to that minimalist pocket, or the slip pocket, exterior slip pocket, which is page 23, just about. And I just want to verify that I'm doing this correct. So we would add the top, we're good there. Line up those pieces, and we're going to start at the lining. Starting at 3/8, increasing to 5/8. Keeping your exterior out of the way. Really? Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay. Exterior of the slip pocket kind of becomes the extension. All right, and then we're going to decrease back to that 3/8. And then pinking shears along the edge of that fabric. And then kind of press the side of your pocket to meet the edge of your fabric. And then we'll tack that into place. And that kind of creates this little gap here. To make it easier to use that pocket. All right, so there's that. We've got back slip pocket, we've got that flap on the front, and then we're finishing this off with binding. So that's going to be something else we want to kind of plan for. So we're going to go to page 47. Because all of these pieces are going to be basically cut off at those marks. So, yeah. Yeah, basically we're going to be cutting it off and then finish sewing. So like right around the top edge of your interfacing. Just about. Mine's like just a little bit off. So what you can do is you can measure 3/8 down, lower your pattern piece, trace that, and then cut it. I'm not going to do that just yet, but I wanted to put it in your brain as well that we're going to have to be doing that. So then we're going to flip back. I know this feels like a lot, and like I get very overwhelmed by like too many things at times. But this really is such a cool thing. And like, again, you're completely creating your own bag. Like there was not a pattern for this exact thing, but you can take those little pieces. It's like if you go to Panera and you get like a you pick 2, but like this is a you pick 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You pick 6. So I think it's pretty cool. Not gonna lie. Okay, so now we're on the right side of the main panel. We're going to find the bottom center. And we're going to mark out where our snaps are going to go. So 4 is my center. And these are going to be 6 inches apart from each other. So that's 3 inches from the center. In case you're like, wait, what? And so now what I want to do is make sure that that's going to line up based on what I've had to change. And I think it's still going to be good. I think it's safe. So I'm going to go ahead and grab the other washer and snap pieces, and we'll go ahead and add those. I don't know if that's okay. And now I'm not sure where the best place would be for your nameplate on this bag. Maybe the back of the slip pocket would have been the best, or a part, of that front flap. I know Brittany from the Emporium has made this one before, and I know she would have added her nameplate. I just can't remember where. I think it was on the flap. Yeah, I think we're going to be just fine. I think that's going to be super cute. My flap might be a little bit crooked, but it'll be okay in the end. I'm a little bit second guessing adding the 2 zipper pocket overlays to the lining. It seems like it might be a bit of overkill, if I'm being honest. But we'll try it. The next thing we're really going to want to do is our connectors, just to have those prepped and ready to go. I think she even says, like, maybe don't do overlays in the lining. There's not enough room. We're going to do it anyway, even though I said I might not. All right, so I'm using these 7,000 series. I feel like I may have said 700 series previously, but that is not true. But I'm gonna cut out, these are amazing, one side first, and then tape these together, sew around them, and then cut them both out together. And you could add interfacing to these if you wanted to. An edge coat. Yeah, I'm gonna edge coat. This is literally the last riveted on part of your bag, so like, why not go the extra mile? Yeah, I was gonna say these are a little shorter than I would like, but I did buy the longer pair as well. And you could keep them in the bag. Like, just keep them safe. Okay. If you are kind of fussy cutting what is on your connectors, you can draw them out like this first. Cut one set and lay the other into place. I didn't fussy cut it or anything, I just traced it twice, because why not? But pick which side is face up, which side is face down, and then we're going to start with long tails. And just slowly, you could even decrease your stitch length. Go around that shape. Long tails. Repeat. And there is nothing saying you can't hand crank around those curves. All right, so we'll pull our threads to the back on all 4 of those pieces. And then I try to keep my threads at varying lengths so I know which ones to tie together. I think at one point I was trying to like clip the correct ones together, and like that wasn't working the greatest. Trim those down. I'll take my lighter And remember that this is on your wrong side. You're not going to see that, but doesn't mean you can't be careful. And then we'll cut that out, and I'm going to get my edge coat stuff and do a quick little base coat. First. I don't plan, not that I don't plan, but I am not going to be base coating the top band. I don't think the Luxe vinyl that I'm using has like a bad edge, so I'm not too concerned with it. All right. So yes, I could open up those other scissors, but these are actually still pretty sharp. And these are the guys, but yeah. And I am just kind of dragging them across the edge of the connector. But another thing you can do is trim your connector down just a teeny tiny bit to even it up if you need to. Okay, don't throw that away. So I have the Max Base Coat Dense and the Max Edge paint pulled out. I'm going to start with the edge coat, which is always so hard to open. You got to make sure you have the cleanest edge before you get started. If I can't open it, I'll just use the color coat. I feel like a superhero. Yeah, all of that is why I couldn't open it. I think it was stored on its side. Okay. So don't do that. But I'm going to be using this little edge roller tool to just drop a bead of the edge coat around the outside. And you also want to like get rid of any bubbles if possible. And I'm just taking the bead of that and rolling it across the edge. And then remember to, like, the bigger nope, lost my train of thought. The bigger the layer, the longer it's going to take to dry. I got there in the end. And then make sure you pop any little air bubbles that you find. And this definitely gets easier over the years of practice. And then I'm just going to set this over to the side. resting on top of clips. I'm not going to clip it to anything to like dry. Just want it to rest on a little base. But don't set it on fabric or anything. Good thing all of my clothes are trashed. It's fine. And then remember, there's a front and a back to this. So if you need to kind of keep one side ugly, that's okay. You can make one side of that connector a mess if need be, because you're not going to see it. I'm not saying you have to. Just saying if you can't be perfect, it's okay. If you're wanting to start using edge coat, I don't recommend starting on like really big pieces. I would say start small, practice. Because it does take time to perfect. And then also you can sand your layers, which will help you kind of create really even coats. Okay, setting that down. And then you want to make sure that you clean your applicator tool and your shirt. At my cutting table, I grabbed the upper main lining piece, and now I'm going to measure on the straight side 3/8 of an inch. And then I'm going to trace this piece lining up the 3/8. I'm going to cut that off. It's a little nerve-wracking. But if you think about it, when you add that the binding at the top edge, you're getting rid of your seam allowance. And so you want to remove that from your lining and your exterior pieces carefully. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and put exterior and lining together. Nope. Nope. I'm just going to put my exterior together. So I'm going to mark my bottom center. And the front, bottom, center, which I already did. And then we'll find our gusset center. And then we don't need our connector attached unless you're doing that decorative connector. But we already prepped our connector. It's going to be the last thing we rivet on over top of the binding. And I'm going to start with my back panel first. So I'm going to mark my center and clip along the bottom. And then I'm going to find the top edge and clip that. And you're going to slowly press into the bottom curve. And I'm hanging it off the edge of my table to clip in place. I just find that a little bit easier. We're not fighting and lifting. And then into that curve, we're going to snip. Nothing too intense, just little snips. And you'll see when you push that down how satisfying it meets the edge. And then you can staple it. Just a quick little staple into the seam allowance, or clip it and do your best. So we're just going to sew this at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. And as I'm going around the curve, I'm pressing to make sure I keep everything lined up. The other day while I was live, I had someone ask, like, how do you get a perfect curve with no puckers or anything like that? And truly this is it. Like, if that's what you're looking for, this is how you get it. So I am trimming my seam allowance down now, kind of avoiding where we've attached all this stuff at the top. And then if you wanted to, you could do those little snipping techniques. And then another thing you can do is add a second row of stitching, because I can kind of see my stitches here because my vinyl is kind of puffy. So we're just going to sew next to those stitches along the curve, just to help that sit a little better. And it alleviates the stress on those stitches. And then you want to make sure you're not using too small of a stitch length and you're not sewing too close to the other side, but it helps quite a bit with all of that. So cute. So we'll attach the other side, and then we can just leave our exterior to sit. I don't know what's wrong with me lately. I have like the smallest sound of a speech impediment, and I'm like, wait, what? Anyway. And like Dorothy doesn't. So it's not from her. I think my brain is going too fast. All right, clipping the top edge to the bottom. And again, I still prefer to keep my project flat if I can, but it's just a little bit of structure in the back keeping me from really getting in there. But now side snip into the curve on the gusset and then push that down into place. Also love how I talked about making those like monster teeth cuts into the curve. And I didn't do it. Even though I was like, you should really do it. I was like, but I didn't do it. I'll try to do it. Honestly, I feel like it's one of those things that like has to become habit forming. Like the more you do it, the more it becomes a habit. And then if your gusset is not fitting as well as you would like it to, you can just carefully add some more little cuts. Okay. We're at that dedicated seam allowance, bringing our gusset to the seam. Going slow. Over here, like, how do we create a tool? Like, extreme snips, extreme corner. And then we'll go ahead and do that second row of stitching again through the little snips here. I did not cut there. Okay, so since it's now going to be finished with wrong sides together, we can just flip this out and leave it sit. And we'll really be able to see how crooked the flap is. It's not too terrible. Press open my side seams. I am a little worried that my flap is like ultra structured compared to the rest of the bag. I think it'll be okay once we get everything in there. And then your slip pocket lining should kind of just sit nicely in that curve in its lane. Stay in your lane. Yeah, that flap will kind of rest and sit nicely over time. But so far I like it. I'm gonna check on my pieces here. They're doing pretty good. I think we can do a little bit more to our lining and they'll be ready. So now I'm gonna have to trim those pieces. Our upper gusset, we can go ahead and take care of that, because we know we're gonna have to trim it off at that 3/8. And then before I start cutting out my overlays, I'm going to attach the upper gusset piece to the lining. And we'll do that little bulk reduction there. And then I don't know, I guess you're supposed to top stitch that on the lining. Oh, no, it doesn't seem to fully matter. But you want to open up that side seam. And there's nothing telling me I can't cut this apart. Thank you. Open that up. You can have the bulk on the center going in one direction and then separate it on the side. And so it ends up looking like this, which is nice. And then we'll go ahead and find our bottom center, lining that up. And set that aside. All right, we've got our 2 zipper pulls here. I keep looking at this and I'm like, what is this? But then I'm like, oh yeah. I just feel like in the end, it's going to be so small that it doesn't really matter. But I do think it'd be fun to see that pop of vinyl on the inside. So I'll go ahead and cut one out and just see what we think. I mean, it works. It works. It'll be fine. All right. Not bad. And then our seam allowance to attach the top edge is going to be 3/8. So I think honestly, like I might just put this down by an inch. So it'll be super close to the top edge, but does it matter? I feel like I did this last time. I realize my tape is sticky, but I'm just trying to create a center line for myself, even if it's just a gentle little crease, so that I know where my center is. And then just really be careful that you're not stretching your vinyl. Okay, I'm gonna check, like, it'll go up against the top edge and then down at the lower edge. So maybe I'll do like 0.75 from the top edge. Again, Shannon said don't do it. She's like, just don't add the zipper overlay to the lining. And yet here I am, doing it anyway. Okay. Yeah, I think 0.75 is going to be good. I'm happy with that. Why doesn't that look centered though, like at all? Okay, it's like an inch from there and like not quite an inch from there. So why aren't you centered? Because it's not centered. This might be why I don't do curved zipper overlays, because you can't really tell, like, obviously you can tell where the center is if you follow the directions very well. But yeah, I'm not great at that, obviously. Okay. And again, these cuts would not be looking this good if it weren't for how sharp these scissors are. So good. And then we're not going to need to leave the bottom open on either of these overlays, so should go fairly quickly. I am going to be using the method where you stitch along the bottom first and then the top, so it's going to take a little extra time, but it does sit nicer in the end. Okay, I've made a center crease. I'm lining up my ruler at 0.75. Lining up my center. And then I'm pressing it up against the edge of the ruler and letting it all kind of just sit. I'm not adding a nameplate to the exterior, so I want to make sure I add a woven label. All right, sewing along the outer edge. And it's gonna seem silly, but once I have this sewn, I'm gonna check my strap connectors to make sure they're dry. And if they are, I'm gonna edge coat before I do any more in the lining. And this is just so when I get this done, or like when I'm done with the bag and I'm ready to add those connectors, they should be dry. I'm like, the edge coat on my hand is dry. I feel like it should be dry on the overlay or the strap connector. technically there's nothing stopping me from sewing the top edge of my lining onto these either, since we aren't adding a recessed zipper panel. Also, as I'm thinking about it, I've never made the original Aries, which has the dual or the side zipper panels and then like the magnetic closure. All right, got those attached. We'll check to make sure there's no big white clumps. I'll be honest, they still feel a little tacky, so we'll give it some more time. And like, even if I don't finish those in this video, it's not going to be the end of the world. I will still show you how you would rivet them on. But, okay. Cutting away our excess lining, nice and slow. Okay, so I've got these scraps, zipper here, just gonna cut them to a length. Okay, I was like, and hope they're long enough. Crap. Okay. I prefer to add my zipper pulls first. Maybe someday I'll change my ways. Right, this one has a bubble. All better. All right, so we're gonna attach, is this a square? I feel like it's a square. Not a square. We'll take the wider side at the top edge of the zipper. And we're just creating a loop that becomes the lining. So you've got your zipper face up and your lining face up. But right now this is the wrong side because you need to imagine that you've unzipped your zipper. Continued to measure it and I was like, wait, is that right? Wait, is that right? All right, and this one is the exact size it needs to be. Okay. And so when you're doing this method of the zipper where you don't like splay it open, you can't really top stitch it flat or it creates some weird bulk. But luckily I'm using a material that's thin enough that that's okay. still want double-sided tape on both parts of your zipper. If you believe you can iron your materials safely, go for it. Why not? Do it. But I don't think mine will stay, even if I were to iron it. So what we're going to do is just unpeel the bottom. Make sure the lining is centered. And we're going to press down below, peel the top, and then make sure that sits flat as well. Okay, and what we want to do first is stitch a line underneath and make sure all that fabric is facing up. And leave your tails long. Okay, pull threads to the back. Okay, I backstitched that one and it's not going anywhere. Okay, and then we're gonna flatten this. And so what I will do is I'll start on the side without my zipper pull. Once we get close, just bring that zipper pull in. And then finish that off. Crap. I pulled a stitch out of place again. Okay, it's not the end of the world because I have a needle here, so what I can do is just put this on the end. This did not start out as a curved needle. That's okay. And pop that back through. Definitely stab yourself in the process. Love that for us. And then we'll tie that off. We'll pretend it never happened. Who's gonna know? All right, and then do not forget to sew the sides of your zipper pocket. And we may also want to sew the bottom and trim it off a little bit. But I'm also like, maybe I'll leave it. No. think he's they're not the same. That looks good. And then we need to stay consistent with how we top stitched our gusset piece. And so we're going to top stitch on the vinyl through the bulk, flattening the side seam open. And then we've got the bulk through the top lining here. Okay, I think it's really cute with the overlay. I regret nothing so far. It could change. We're splitting open that side seam, kind of back stitching up into the side. And then a little haircut. Okay, we need to trim the top of the bag still to account for the bound top. And then we're going to find the center bottom. Yeah, I'm going to trim down this piece here. Okay. And then if you wanted to, you could go ahead and clip your lining. It might be a little visually annoying to have that solid like that, but I think it's kind of fun, brings it together nicely. Make sure your gusset isn't twisted. Clipping that together on the sides, and then bring the center together. Then clip out to the edges, and then we'll cut into that side seam. And then you will be starting at 3/8 and just slowly increasing to about a half or so on your lining. I think it's so cute. Okay. 3/8. And then we'll repeat all of that on the other side. Love to see that we're running out of pieces. I think we're good to finish these pieces. I know it's like, hey, why don't you just finish? But this could even need 2 coats of color, so I'd just rather know that that's done. Also, I'm trying to make sure I don't get the color all over everything. Okay, make sure you keep in mind what's your front, what's your back. Just gonna grab a little bit. Yeah, this is pretty see-through. Oh, there we go. I almost feel like this hot pink is kind of clashing, but I think it'll be okay. And then some vinyls kind of soak up that base coat, so you may need to do a second coat with it. I kind of like that the color is translucent. It gives it like a jelly kind of look. So I'll set this back over here to dry. Okay. There we go. And then we can't forget, we're going to finish that. We're going to add our binding to the top edge. And then these will get riveted on to the top side. Hopefully this dries in the next 30 minutes or so. If not, I can film that part later. So pretty. All right. We'll close this. I'm just not graceful at all. All right. Marking the top. If you are turning this bag through a zipper pocket in the lining, you don't have to do this method. If you're finishing it with the drop-in lining, you don't have to do this. This is only if you're adding the binding around the top edge that you'll need to cut this down. Well, any of these pieces down. Oh, don't throw those away. Throw that away. So make sure your zipper is closing to the side you want it to close. Center your zipper. And then when you're pressing this flat, just make sure you're doing your best not to like stretch anything. We'll start at the bottom. So one straight line underneath with all of your lining fabric facing up. Pull your threads to the back. We'll tie that off. That is really loud. The last time I was editing, I noticed big spikes in the audio, and it's when I forcefully put my snips away. All right, pressing that seam flat. The zipper pull almost came off. Not the end of the world, I just don't like it when it happens. Okay, then we're gonna start on this side. Needle in, come up. All right, and then we're reaching the end. So we're gonna slide our zipper pull in. And then finish that off. Long tails. Just pull the one thread. Can I do that? Can I have just the one stitch? And again, nothing's stopping us from adding that top panel before we did any of this, other than habit maybe. Because normally you would add your zipper pockets or slip pockets or whatever, your recessed zipper panel, and then the top lining. Okay. And then we're going to close this off. And the only reason I'm stitching on the bottom is because the lining is too long. We can't have our lining be that long. looks weird without that top edge. And so we're adding that snip once again, opening the side seam, pressing the remainder of the bulk up to the top edge. And pressing it down flat on the sides. Last gusset piece. We're doing it. I'm still laughing. I walked to my table, to my seat, and I wiped my connector off the edge of the little table over there. And I think it's on my shirt. It's fine. It just kind of further proves to me that maybe I shouldn't sew past midnight. Maybe don't record tutorials past midnight. But it's like, well, then when am I gonna do it? Because strangely enough, this has become one of my jobs, and yet I still treat it like a hobby. All right. Three-eighths inch, slowly increasing and running out of bobbin. There it is. I was like, I hear you. Moment of truth. It's precious. Oh my gosh. All right, I'm hoping this adds quite a bit of structure because again, compared to the flap, it's kind of wimpy feeling. I am gonna top stitch all my layers together and then bind it. Pretty sure it has you do that anyway, but oh yeah, it's gonna be interesting. Definitely might benefit from the cylinder arm, but I know I can make it work. pressing that lining down into place. Oh yeah, feels way better. Oh my goodness. It's so cute. Yeah, the flap is definitely crooked, but not by much. Not by enough that I'm like gonna worry about it. So I'm gonna baste this at about 1/8 of an inch. Could also even just glue it. Tape it. But this will help prevent stretching and shifting. Just have to be careful with the bulk the flap adds. It's kind of shifting everything in that area. So one downside to having my scissors up there. All right, so now we're ready to add our double-sided tape. I'm going to use 1/4 inch double-sided tape for this part. We're going to add one line above and one line below. Okay. Start by peeling one side first. You don't have to peel it the whole way. I'm just now remembering that you don't have to peel it the whole way. It's going to be upside down, but it's okay. So you're going to start on one side, in the center, and line that up. And just go slow. And make sure you press it firmly into place. And now we've got a little bit of overlap, but that's okay. We can trim that away. We want to make sure we have enough. So now we can fold this over the top edge and start clipping. And you want to kind of work on a section all together before you really press firmly. See how it's kind of sliding up in this area? Got that. I have just a little bit that I'm cutting off. And then just add some more clips. Make sure nothing looks horribly uneven. Yeah, I'm really happy with the material I chose for the binding. The satin vinyl has like just a little bit too much bulk that I don't think I would have liked the way it sat. And I'll be honest, I like the overlays inside. They're super, super unnecessary, but I still think they're cute, precious. They add a little bit of the lining inside, or the exterior inside the bag. And then I love that binding on the top being that print. Okay. Cylinder arm would be the much wiser choice here. And then my binding on the inside should sit, ooh, my binding on the exterior is sitting a little bit lower. Not by much. No, we're still, I was like, you can top stitch it this way, but that's not a good idea. You can flip the bag if you want, but I am gonna go ahead and top stitch it this way. And I'm just gonna kind of like bow out the bag. We're gonna start at the side seam. So I think everything's gonna work out in the end. Oh wait, no, you wanna start where you're gonna hide it. Did-away. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna top stitch it from the inside of the bag. So we're gonna do this at a 3/8. It's gonna be fine. We are gonna go slow and steady. And if you think about it, this bag has a flap that covers the front. So if it's not incredible, there's a flap on it. This was nothing. I'm pulling my threads to the side panel. I think top stitching works great. Pulling our threads into here, and then we'll tie it off. And then the last step is going to be riveting on the D-ring connectors. I'm pretty sure mine are still wet. I'll take a look. But it's pretty straightforward to do that. You're gonna use your template piece to mark your holes. And you're gonna punch those holes, and then you're gonna lay it on the side of your bag and make sure that your D-ring is nice and propped up. And then you're gonna rivet through it all, poking the holes in the side of your bag as well. So yeah, once the bag sits for some time, everything will kind of come together nicely when it needs to. But I think it turned out so cute. I love this slip pocket. I think the way it comes together is so nice as well. And it sits snugly, but you still have plenty of room down inside, and you're not restricted by the space inside. You're only restricted by the space above, which is not in a negative way, but it just kind of like sucks your items in. So if it were to topple over, it wouldn't be blopping out. Nice secure flap, and then the inside is super cute. Yeah, there we go. So I'm just marking out where we're going to punch those holes. Fantastic. Make sure we've got the right side face up. And this is going to get attached to the center on the side here. Putting a rivet through that. So like I said, all that's left is to rivet on those strap connectors. Hopefully I can do that soon, but thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I hope you're enjoying the Pisces pack journey with me. Thanks for watching. Bye.